is coming up to 32 minutes past 2, and I am with the author Jillian Haslam to talk about her book, Indian English, a memoir. It's out now, and it deals with her family growing up in India in poverty. Her white family of British ancestry, growing up because her father decided that he wanted to stay back in India after independence. Jillian, you managed to get to the point where you were working for Bank of America, a successful job, but there were still problems, weren't there, in the way you were treated by people around you and by a male attitude towards you by Indian men. What was that attitude?
The overall attitude was great. The CEO of Bank of America was actually the main person who played the greatest part in my life in helping to get me and my family out of the country.
Right.
And he was the one, along with the management team in Bank of America, who recognized my talent, and that's how I was heading the charity and diversity networks. But there were very many people within the bank and outside who really looked upon me as being different. And even when I tried to interview and get the job, there were a number of remarks passed. When I did get the job, there were even more remarks passed. And when I did meet my husband, who is Indian, there were even more insulting remarks passed as to why I got the job and because I was white, and very, very hurtful words that are mentioned in my book, actually.
Yes, of course.
Which I didn't deserve, because I had come through some very, very difficult times in order to get there at bust.
They thought you were a privileged white person who just kind of parachuted into the job without knowing where you come from.
Worse still, they thought that I was selected because I looked different and because the CEO or the people who selected me had other intentions. And that wasn't right. That wasn't fair.
When you were saying about getting your family out, your sisters, of which there are, 5 sisters you have?
Yes.
Getting them out of India, why did they have to come out of India? Why couldn't they stay there? Because now you've lived here some 11 years. Why was it impossible for them and you to make a life for yourself, a meaningful life for yourself in India, considering you were born and bred there, all of you?
Well, also because I was with Bank of America, and it would have been more than comfortable to remain there, just like my parents did, to want to stay there and remain in the country that we were born in and we loved, and we had all our friends, our networks, but it became impossible to do so. Every side, I can speak for myself, and obviously my siblings, but mainly for myself, every side I turned, it was very hard. Like I've given you the instance with my job at Bank of America, on the streets it was very hard.
Was there a feeling that because you were white, people regarded you as easy? They regarded you as a fallen woman, as it were, that it was fair play for people to be inappropriate to you because you were white? Did you come across that?
A lot, yes. Every other day, where the children, like I said, are multiplying by the hundreds, and there's no one to help them and to save those lives. Why that is still today, I do not understand, when India is a growing economy. They're doing really well. Why does this continue? I do not know, but I'm going to try to help in whatever way I can.
So you still go back once in a while. Is it quite painful to go back, though? Because it's almost like you've escaped a prison of poverty, and you would get very few people returning back to their prison.
I love
must
to
have a
go
lot of
back.
bad memories.
A lot of sad memories, yes. especially when I try to go back to the place under the steps and the house where we lived. But it's also a lot of happy memories because, truth be told, that's what I call home. Literally.
That is
the truth. That is what I call home. Yeah.
Even though it treated you in such a bad way?
Yes. Of course. That will always be my home. Even when we were living under the steps, that was the only home we had and the only home we knew. And we were really happy to go back under the steps.
How old were you then?
I was 6.
You were 6 years old, living under some steps.
Yeah.
How many of you were living under the steps?
It's on the cover of my book. That's a real picture there.
That's a real picture?
That's my mother. I
thought it was kind of mocked up,
no,
that picture of the...
It's actually, the artwork is put together by 15 different photographs, but that is actually my mother, my little sister in her arms, and me on her shoulder. Yeah. That was our home.
For how long?
As far as I remember, for almost a year, but I was too little to know exactly how long. But then after that, we moved to... In the book, I show a picture of our second home, which was actually no bigger or better than a little concrete slum or a hut. It was deplorable circumstances, actually.
Harmeet has said, when I was in India, I stayed at a top hotel in Delhi. I was sitting right next to an Englishman in the bar, and I was told that I cannot drink because I was an Indian, while the English gentleman was served without any problem. It belittled me in front of this English gentleman in whose country we regularly shout racism for not being slowly.
That's going to be a no-go.
I shall let her down slowly. She's not going to be happy with that.
Just tweet her now and say, look, I'm sorry, love, it's only 10%, so maybe we can't hook up.
I would text her, but I took after she kept hassling me, I took her number out of the phone, to be honest.
I don't blame you.
She doesn't.
Yeah,
don't take no for an answer, that woman. So how's you and Arjun then? How does that come up?
I think me and Arjun, if my memory serves me correctly, I think we're about 67%. Producer is just double checking.
You mean putting a screwdriver in the side of the machine to get it to work for you? You mean 6.7%? It probably was. And then Harjot got in there to make it.
Hang on. Sorry, 90%.
What?
My memory was wrong.
90%?
90, yes. I'm happy with that result. I'm very happy.
I would fax that to his lawyers, the one who got the restraining order on you.
But I should actually add, 90% all from me.
Oh, right. I'm surprised.
Probably about 2 on his behalf.
It's clearly broken then, because it was 90%. It's not even close to what it actually is.
That 90% is all from me.
All
anyway,
from
thank
you.
you, Nihal.
All right, my darling. Have a great show and have a great weekend.
Bye. You too, bye.
Hi Nihal, a question for Jillian. I find her comments anachronistic. I don't say that these things didn't happen, but I find it hard to believe when there are so many international people living there happily and go back. I find it shocking she never learned the language properly and has an overwhelmingly negative view of somewhere where she was raised and helped and had a good job. And that's not true. She doesn't have an overwhelmingly negative, not at all. Do you? Not at all. So that's not true for a start. In the book Shantaram, the author learned Marathi and lived in the slums, developed a love for the country through this country. Asian communities have struggled in this country and still do. I'd be interested in her views on the struggling minorities here in post-colonial Britain. Does she feel compassion to these minorities? Does she understand why she was treated as such by some Indians, given what the British did in India? Do you feel that some of the way you were treated is down to the fact that people resented what the white British had done in India? Do you think that ever you were victimised because of that? Even though you were born, decades afterwards?
Partly, maybe, Nihal, but I think most people would react to anybody being different. So whether you were fat or thin, black or white, tall or short, whatever, you usually picked on if you're different. And we were different. They just reacted to us behaving differently, dressing differently, being different. And that's really what happened. But I think much of it...
So it was much the same racism that Asians got here when they first came here, because you were a minority, effectively. You were picked on.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
It must have been, I mean...
But there were many who even helped us.
But we have this idea here of a confused generation of British Asians who are confused. They're neither one or would, I suppose...
It's the same thing.
But it sounds like you're mixed race, but you're not mixed race in that respect.
No, we're not, and that's a big difference there, because an Anglo-Indian is, kind of a mixed race, but in Indian English is people who have British parentage on both sides.
Wow.
So, yeah, my husband's learned to live with it. He loves both sides.
You were telling me a fascinating story, actually, because we've only got about 45 seconds left, about when you were in Goa. Tell us what happened. You were in a restaurant,
Goa.
yeah.
Oh, we were in Goa.
This is not in the book, by the way. This is something else, yeah.
We were in Goa, and an Indian family got to the entrance of a restaurant, and they were kept waiting forever to be seated. And a foreign couple walked in, a white couple walked in, and it was great. They were seated right away, and I couldn't understand why that happened and why they were treated that way, but it did upset me, and I do not understand why people are so obsessed to treat people
like the sound of Asian Britain on digital TV and online.
This is BBC Asian Network.
Jillian, just wanted to say, Am's from